That's called Bob Watches Blues right there.
There you go. Thank you. Well, everybody, welcome Kevin O'Leary. Kevin, thanks so much for coming out.
This is wonderful.
We've been looking forward to this.
I could talk watches with you all day long. I
love to talk. People want to hear. They want to get your view, what you think about watches, prices, values, the investment side of it.
Let's talk about the secondary market for a moment and the importance of the work you do and others in the secondary market. The reason I can feel comfortable about buying an FP Journe, for example, I know that the secondary market has validated that product and that I am not losing money as a collector. I don't need any more watches, so I'm starting to look at it as investing. And so I'm looking for pieces that are going to appreciate in my portfolio, just like stocks.
Yeah.
And I want to love the dial, I want to be able to wear them. But the only way I know with certainty is to check with you, the secondary market. What is this piece trading for? I mean, really trading for.
Right.
Not on some app. I want to know what it's really trading for between other people. And so there are certain brands that have supported their secondary market, and there are certain brands that have not. And the brands that have not are being punished by guys like me because we don't want to go there anymore. We're tired of buying something for $150,000 and seeing it trade in the secondary market for 80.
Yeah, that's not right. No, that hurts.
Well, it hurts.
Yeah.
It makes me feel stupid.
So what happens, and I get this question quite a bit, what should I buy, Paul? Should I buy something that's going to go up in value or something that I like? What do you say about that when people ask you that? Because you're tossed up with that investment angle all the time.
You know, the only way to look at it is to say, I want both.
Yeah.
There's stuff I'm going to like, but I want to know that I put my money to work. And, you know, brand like Rolex, Patek, AP, FP Journe, Grand Seiko. I mean, some of these, even Longines, which is not a well-known brand, but a great entry-level watch.
Sure is.
You know, they make beautiful pieces. High-quality caliber, craftsmanship, but supporting their aftermarkets by thinking through their marketing strategies and how many pieces you're going to produce. I mean, you cannot go wrong buying a Submariner steel as an entry-level piece.
Not today, and not the last 10 years. It's been rock solid.
10 years is a long time. So that shows you that the market is
very stable, very stable.
I could say the same for the other brands I just mentioned.
So just my opinion, Kevin, on this, because I do get this question a lot. What do I buy? What's going to go up? What's a sleeper right now? What hasn't gone up in value that I can buy today that's a good investment?
And that's a very valid question. What's wrong with that question?
And it's a hard answer to give because I always try to tell people, don't buy for the investment side of it. And you may differ with this opinion, but buy what you like. Because who cares if it goes up in value and you don't like it, or you're not going to wear it?
You shouldn't buy a piece if you don't want to put it on your wrist. I totally get that.
And wear it.
Why is sports so hot and dress not hot? What is going on?
You know, that's a good question. And it happened a little bit over time, like over 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah. Like steel sports, steel and dive watches. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, I think it's just been an overall trend of this casual sport wear that we do today, as opposed to 30, 40 years ago.
Because now it's gone crazy. Sports watches, dive watches, steel watches are premium.
Yeah,
in primary and secondary markets.
Absolutely. You walk in a Rolex store today, a Patek store, there's no sport models. There's no any models right now for Rolex. But the sport models, even 5 years ago, they were not to be had. You couldn't find one. Yeah. But if you look, and I know I'm going maybe back too far, but if you look at an old baseball picture of the Yankee game, all the guys in the stands were dressed like you, suit and tie.
Yep.
So it started with hats. A lot of times, you're right.
Yeah. The number one issue with secondary market you got to address here is authentication, because the most ripped off brand, knocked off, fraud watches made around a brand is Rolex. Particularly the Daytona.
Yeah.
I have seen fakes that are so good even I can't tell. And so what do you do, Paul, to authenticate these pieces to give people confidence that you're supporting a secondary market with authentication?
So another good question. We get that quite a bit, and the answer is always the same. Buy from a trusted source. Be careful who you buy it from. Buy it from a trusted source.
How long did it take you to become a trusted authenticator for people? Because the only reason you're in business is people trust that what they're buying from you is real.
Well, because people know if they come to us, we stand behind it. Look, we're not perfect. We do make mistakes on occasion, but we're good at what we do. We see lots of watches, probably more than most people see any other dealer. And sometimes the good fakes, though, Kevin, they take us an hour to authenticate. We have to really inspect them.
What do you got to do? Like, do you have to take it apart? What happens?
So a $25 fake I can see from across the room. It's fake. The $50 fake I can see from across the room. The $500 Chinese fake, that takes a while. We got to take it apart. We got to get it with a loupe. We've got to examine it. We got to look at the movement. We got to look at the back. We got to look at the polish. A lot of times we'll take the crown out to even look at the polishing that's inside that crown.
I'm really worried.
The average layman cannot do that.
I tell you why I'm really worried. I just a couple of months ago had a real steel white-faced Daytona with the black ceramic bezel and a fake one. And it was sort of a challenge to me to pick the fake. And the way my go-to to pick fakes is to actually unwind the crown and wind it. Because I've wound so many Rolexes. I can feel it.
You can feel it.
I could not feel the difference.
No.
That scared the you-know-what out of me.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, this is crazy. These fraudulent dudes are getting really good at knocking off these watches.
Yeah, they are, especially the Rolex Daytona.
Yeah.
Just be really careful. Again, buy from a trusted source that's going to stand behind it.
Even the boxes and papers are amazingly fake.
Oh, I know. They're incredible. So we call them super fake. Because they're so incredibly good.
I won that contest, but only because I had a 50% chance of winning.
Because you could feel it.
Well, I know what bothered me was that the white box, like one of them had
the outer box.
The outer box, right?
Yeah.
You know how there's a white wrapper around it? The fake one was like, it looked really cheap. The white wrapper piece.
Oh wow.
Versus it was a little thinner.
See, but you're an astute. See, the average guy couldn't have picked up on that, but you've seen so many watches, hundreds of watches, you could pick up on that.
But that's really scaring me because it wasn't the actual piece itself that I was able to see, it was the fake packaging.
Yeah. What do you think about the secondary market? Like, do you think the brands support it? Do you think they like it? What's your Shark Tank opinion on this whole business, this secondary business that's really become pretty huge in the last 10 years?
First, some facts. The secondary market is 10 times bigger than the primary market. In other words, in a calendar year, 10 times more sales happen in the secondary market.
Agreed.
And it's only going to get bigger every year.
Yep.
So, number two, the brands tolerate the secondary market, and they do it for a reason, because they know collectors like me need the validation of the secondary market to continue to invest. When I know that this piece is trading for over $500,000, it makes me feel a lot better for the actual purchase price I put into it.
Yeah.
And it incentivizes me to choose brands that you validate in the secondary market as appreciating in value, because I don't need, every collector is different, but I'm past the point of no return. I don't need new pieces, so I have to be cognizant of how much money I'm putting into buying them. And if there's no secondary market validating my FP Journe or my AP or my, whatever brand I'm buying. Grand Seiko, I've been buying a lot of Grand Seikos. They're not cheap anymore, and they're very well made.
They are.
But the secondary market is supporting it.
Right.
And so a combination of the brand doing a good job supporting their limited production maybe, or just the way they're marketing it or getting people excited about it, and you telling me that this is trading at a premium to what I bought it for, that to me is why the secondary market's so important.
A $10,000 watch that would be $10,000 retail, we were selling them at like 30% below. So there was value there and people would see it. And yes, they would see that secondary value, but they were getting a deal. Today, it's 30 to 200% over. So it's just slowly evolved to where now the secondary
Well, Paul, without
price,
naming specific brands, there are brands that do trade down in the secondary market. And I own some of those pieces. And to me, that's brand mismanagement. Either they're not supporting the secondary market the way they should, or they're overproducing the units, or they're not spending enough marketing dollars to get demand up, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That is another problem, because for that brand, if I want to buy that piece, I'm going to come to you. I'm not even go to buy primary.
Well, because you're going to buy at value. You're going to buy it at actual market value.
But
And
that must
why
be...
to pay the premium and buy it new?
I have conversations with the CEOs of those companies, and I'm highly critical.
Yeah.
I'm highly critical, and I think they have to get the truth from somebody. You know, I'm noted for telling the truth, even if it's painful. Well, when they call me up and say, look, we want you to, we're going to make a special collector's edition of this or that, and I look at the secondary market, and I say, no, not for me.
Yeah. Who wants to spend $10,000 or $100,000 on an item and then find out a month later or a year later that it's worth 30% less, 40% less? Nobody.
It makes
So that's why it's
it
so
makes you
important.
feel foolish. It's like you didn't do your homework.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't like it when other collectors say to me, oh, you know, it's very interesting you brought that question up, because just yesterday, a collector, a huge guy, called me up and he out of frustration, and he said, I'm going to sell all my ABC brand watches that I've been collecting. I said, what? He said, give me the CEO's cell number, because I'm going to give him the option to buy them from me first before I put them in secondary, because I've got a lot of them. Something triggered him, something pushed him over the edge,
Yeah.
and I know what it was. He bought a high-end piece. I really would love to tell you the brand, but it's unfair. I mean,
Yeah, no.
it's a big one. And when he saw it, he saw secondary trade a week after he stepped up and wrote that huge check. He just really pissed him off. He said, that's it, I'm done. And if I were that company, I would buy the pieces back at the retail he paid for them before he just puts them into the secondary market.
But you're right, they need to support. The brands need to reach out and find a way to support the secondary market, because it's a driver. A driver of enthusiasm and you know, investment side of it and everything else. And you've got to have that to be able to sell brand new watches. Now, Rolex is the epitome of that, because Rolex can't make them fast enough.
Right.
They cannot produce.
It's a very unique brand. It's actually not. It's a trust. It's actually it's a trust run by 6 lawyers.
It's a foundation.
It's a foundation.
Right.
And basically, that foundation owns most of the real estate in Switzerland.
Yeah.
These guys make so much money.
I think they probably make more money on their real estate than they do on watches.
And who knows if this is true or not. When you see these people, I love these, you know, conspiracy theories about Rolex. Here's one for you. When you see a piece trade of a vintage Rolex at a crazy price like the Paul Newman, who is really buying that?
Yeah, we'd all love to know, wouldn't we? You think it's Rolex?
I think it's Rolex, and that's genius, because they put it back in the museum. Maybe they keep it under wraps for 100 years, so a whole generation passes.
Yeah.
But by supporting their own brand, they're supporting the secondary market, the primary market, the brand itself, and all the investors in Rolex.
Yeah.
They are the best brand managers in the watch industry.
Could have been Rolex. You're right. It could have been. It would have been a really smart move for the brand to step up and do that.
The reason the price could have gone to $40 million and it still would have been Rolex, because it's still supporting their brand. But that changed everything for everybody that had a Daytona. These monumental trades establish incredible value in the aftermarket. Mm-hmm. Forever, the Rolex steel-faced white Daytona. You must get some of these in the secondary market Daytonas that are Paul Newmans, right?
We do, yeah. Quite
what are they trading for now?
200 and up.
Yeah.
In generally.
And they're in rough shape, some of those things.
Some of them are, yeah. So even the Paul Newman's, his watch, Paul Newman, was not in great shape. It's not
the fact that he never polished it is why it traded at a crazy price. That's my theory.
Well, also because it was his. I mean, he was one of the guys that started this whole disease that we're all
right.
affected by.
That
the
was
virus.
the beginning of the massive appreciation of all timepieces. I look at that as the pre and post Newman auction. I really do look at the industry that way.
Yeah.
Because you've had more price appreciation after that than we've ever seen in the watch industry before.
Yeah. But that's a one-of-a-kind piece. I mean, it's an iconic piece.
But look what it did for...
It's like the Mona Lisa.
Look what it did to all the Daytonas.
And so let's talk about that Tiffany for the people that maybe don't know what it is.
Yeah, Patek Philippe has had a relationship with Tiffany for many, many decades. And every once in a while, at the request of the brand Tiffany, they'll make a very small number, in this case 170 watches, that actually have Tiffany on the dial. Now this was a very beautiful blue dial.
Tiffany blue.
Well, it almost was more radiant in some ways.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I was very interested in the piece. I love that model, but I'm not a big Tiffany customer. So the word on the street was, that you had to have an account with Tiffany. Even a corporate account would be good. Now, I could do a corporate account, so I wanted to find out, the idea would be you'd advance some money into your corporate account and then use it for corporate gifts, and then get access to the piece. So I made a call to a dealer I know is very familiar with both brands, and he told me, look, the number, Kevin, is $2 million you're going to have to put into the Tiffany account. And I thought, this is before the auction, okay?
Yeah, that's a rounding error for you, though, so.
Well, nevertheless, I wanted to find out from the auction house itself what they felt the piece was going to go for, and it was north of $2 million. So theoretically, you might consider that. Then I get a call back from the original dealer, and he said, no, the number's now $5 million. This before the auction. I said, something crazy. It's just like the Newman. Something crazy is happening.
Yeah.
The trade occurred at over 6 million, 6.2 with seller premium, right?
6.5, I think.
6.5 with seller premium.
Yep.
So that is what happened right there. Is the remaining 169 pieces have gone crazy.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen one in here yet.
No.
Because a lot of those people were
I'd love
allocated long ago that our Tiffany customers realize they're sitting on a $6 million watch.
Right.
And I don't think they're going to come back into the market for a while. And the test of that watch will be, what do you buy it for?
Yeah, I know. Well, it might be a little bit out of our range, but I think the guys that are going to be buying these watches, like Jay-Z, John Mayer, these guys don't flip watches. Most of them keep the watches. I can't imagine.
That will
I don't think you may not see one in the secondary market.
So the one that was sold for the auction was for charity and established. Most people thought that piece was going to go for about $1.5 million, $1.6 million.
Yeah, which is still a lot of money. It's incredible.
For a $50,000 watch.
Yeah,
right?
52 retail.
50, yeah.
So there's a lot of crazy.
Again, another event but look what happened to Patek's now. Look what's happening. Like, their whole collection for 2021 is basically sold out.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. If you owned Patek, if you owned Rolex, would you produce more watches or would you keep things the way they are? What would you do? You're a businessman, one of the best in the world.
I think the real value in Patek Philippe is the brand name,
Of course.
not the watches. That brand name now is probably worth, my guess, close to $10 billion.
Yeah.
So you have to spend all of your, it may be even more than that.
I was going to say more,
but
maybe 20, 30.
It's if you could put Patek Philippe on a hotel, you could put it on a golf course.
And you'd fill it up.
You would. The point is, that family, it's a family-owned business. The Stern family would never do that. But I think they're very smart and shrewd, knowing that what they're really managing as they hold back production is the brand.
Yeah.
And so that means limited production. And they're very limited in production. Getting allocation from Patek is extremely hard. I'm very, very fortunate. I support the brand. I believe in the artistry. I never turn a piece down, ever, because I know it's only going one direction, up.